press release.
Yes,
It's ready to go.
it's ready, okay.
And we want to talk a little bit about that, how it
Okay.
with the budget, and because we're making some assumptions in the budget, but we don't want to make false assumptions.
Sure.
Okay. I just,
Call this work session to order, Wednesday, April 4th, 1 p.m., open for visitor comments. Come on up and state your name and please, yep.
I just spoke with Mr. Walsher a couple of days ago, and I had a couple of more questions. I'm Eric Jensen. I am a local sculptor. I live in Scappoose, and I have an idea that I've had for a few years now to erect a monument to the Lewis and Clark mascot. That was a great big Newfoundland dog. And my question for you today is, with your things up on the highway that are bolted to the bridges, how does anybody know how that was? There had to be some kind of a fund. I'm thinking that checks were written on to pay for the fabrication and so on. Do any of you know how that was handled?
that was a process that went through Arts and Cultural,
Mm-hmm.
and they put out an RFP for the art, and there were, Margaret, do you remember how many different artists responded?
But
The money itself, the funding, that was fundraising,
okay, and
and a lot of different types of fundraising.
it must have had some kind of a dedicated bank account that was especially for the monuments, right?
Uh,
I mean, the
yeah,
monu-
ACC they did have a bank account, I think.
Margaret, can you turn on your microphone?
Well,
Excuse me. There you go.
There were grants that were obtained, there was a Kickstarter campaign, there were private donations, there were
But that-
fundraising on the part of the Arts and Cultural Commissioners,
And there
all
was-
those things.
There was a lot of negotiating with ODOT on it.
but I'm sorry, I'm not making myself clear. The funds must have been gathered in a bank account or something that was dedicated to those projects. Is that correct?
It goes through the city account.
Yeah.
We just set up a separate line item for that.
Oh, I see. Okay. The other question I had, and then I'll end, is does the city, who would know what the substrate is out here in this land that used to be Boise Cascade? Is it spoils from the river, or is it, as you suggested, it might be boulders top coated with dirt, or who would know what that land is like? I'm getting bids.
Depends on what it is.
Yeah, it's kind of a chicken and egg thing because without knowing, I can't get bids on a foundation for this thing without knowing where it is, because they would want, the concrete outfit would want to know where to put the footings and how deep and so on.
I think that's kind of preliminary because there's a developer that we're working with on that. And we need to know where he's going with it before any decisions are made on artwork.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, of course, and I couldn't just decide to do it.
Right.
Who is there anybody that I can contact with the developer that I could talk with, because they might know some details about placing something big and heavy?
Anything close to the river is going to be fill, and it could be a variety of stuff and whatnot. You get
That's what
closer to the bank, and it's going to be some rock back there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But does the city engineer,
Yeah, I would talk to Jacob, our planning.
Jacob?
Jacob Grafson.
What's the last name? Sorry.
He's right here.
Do we have
Oh,
any geotech reports for that property? That's what we need.
Not to the extent you're
Yeah.
looking
You
at.
need,
So
you need a
very investment
geotech
things.
report to really understand what's down there. Typically, when
Yep.
someone develops on a property, they get that so the soil's analyzed so you understand what kind of foundation's needed.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to leave you with a card if I may, and if I have one. And otherwise, I'll quit taking up your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Steve Topaz, I assume it's on, St. Helens Street. I have one question today. Background is they had a request for public comments on the Armstrong plant, and I made a comment or some questions to the parties, which was was DEQ, and also and the rest of the background was about a year ago, John made a presentation about using the cooling lagoon as a storage for toxic waste. And I learned two things from the comments they replied to my interest. And one is any toxic waste from the Armstrong plant would go over to a Hillsborough landfill. The other thing was that the DEQ is going to study the lagoon, the viability of using that as a landfill. But the question that I have with that as the background, and we learned that at the presentation down in St. John's, was if we had a toxic waste there, St. Helens would have to have a insurance policy forever to guard against the toxic waste falling into the river, because we would be financially liable from here to the ocean forever. Do we happen to have a insurance policy of the cooling lagoon as it stands right now failing? I assume by the silence we do not. Thank you.
You care to comment,
And
John?
the city has a general liability policy, which that would cover, for sure.
That would cover catastrophic.
Presumably, we have an earthquake rider, if it's earthquake driven or what the event was.
So that way is covered under that.
Yeah.
Okay. Other visitor comments?
Good afternoon. I'm Beth Polito.
Yeah, you can sit if you'd like.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Beth Polito with the Amani Center, and we have presented an application for a race coming up on the 21st of this month, and I was just asked to come in case there were any questions related to that application, and I don't know if that's going under, if that's being approved today during your work session or tonight at council, but if anybody has an idea, I just wanted to answer any questions in case you might need to pose them to me. Have to get
The street closure is on the agenda for tonight,
Okay.
and that's the only portion that comes to the city council.
okay. So should I come back tonight in case there's any questions, or is it good?
I'm sure it's fine.
All right.
No, yeah,
You're good.
We're good.
Awesome. Thank
Yep.
you very much. Have
Thank
a
you
good day.
for showing up. Yes. Other visitor comments? Okay. Proposed rate increase for garbage and recycling service, Hudson Garbage.
So we have some representation from Hudson Garbage here today.
We have Herb, Joe, and I forget her name.
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Chelsea, okay, good.
Yep.
This is a little uncharted territory for myself, so I do want to thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to have this discussion. I am comfortable knowing that most of you guys have heard and John, we've spoke, and Mayor, we spoke as well, on the challenges we face with the recycling crisis that China's driving. And so for myself and Joe, we're here more than anything to answer some questions in regards to a pretty reasonable request on a rate increase for that issue. And so I've given you guys some information. I don't know if you've had any time, or John, you guys might have some questions.
I think for the people watching, it might be good to frame the issue as far as
Okay.
the global
Would you mind?
issue with recycling and.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'll try to do this quickly.
Sure.
For years, in the Pacific Northwest, recycling material has increasingly flowed to China. Newspaper demand has fallen here, and China needed that material there for liner boards and running their operations. And so, over time, 60 to 80% of the mixed waste paper generated in the Pacific Northwest has gone to China. Last summer, China, in response to really environmental concerns that have become overwhelming to them, air pollution related to burning some of the material that ultimately didn't get recycled, and extra landfilling that was going on, they said enough is enough, and dramatically changed the quality standards effective January 1st of the material that they would accept into the country. And so we were sending material, we being the United States, was sending material that was probably 3 to 5% contaminated over there. They lowered the standard to 0.5%. And they put some kind of strict parameters about it, that if material that does not meet the standard is found in their port, they'll reject the load, send everything back at pretty extensive cost, and they would likely deny permits for those importers to continue bringing material in. So there's a fair amount of fear of a Chinese stick coming down for anybody bringing in anything that's contaminated. That started to really roil the markets October of last year. We were hoping that China would blink a little bit. They need this material. They need the paper to run their factories and send their products back to here. It does not appear that China has blinked at this point. They are still holding that standard. And the result of that is we had all this material flowing, hundreds of thousands, millions of tons of material that market has closed. And so it's a major disruption in the demand curve. So we have been scrambling here stateside trying to figure out what to do with this material. Initially, and we're still doing it, we've slowed down our processing lines to do some better sorting and cleaning here. What that involves is adding labor to the line, slowing the line down. It's resulted in us throwing more of the material out on the back end of our MRFs that used to just go and we just pack it up in the bale and send it. We're now keeping that here. All these things have added costs. The fear of a load being rejected has caused shippers to increase the price of handling, just taking those bales. Since it's not going to China, the material recovery facility where your material goes, we've done a lot of cleaning up. About half of the paper that we used to send to China, we have been able to clean up enough so that domestic mills take it, but not at the price that we were getting before in the good times. And we have been able to move another half of the paper to non-Chinese markets in Asia, and so they're still taking it. But again, there's this cost that is higher. This is affecting recycling collection throughout the West Coast and even the rest of the United States to a lesser extent, and to Europe, the places that we're taking things to China. We are, just here. I believe we were paying about $40 a ton to move the material out of St. Helens and Columbia County last year, and now it's $140 a ton, and that's just something that straight to the bottom line.
I guess to interject another difference, for us to dispose garbage, it's $89 a ton opposed to a recycling. Actually, that number is $145. So for us, instead of walking away from something as important as recycling, we don't want to change that behavior because it took decades and decades to plug into our communities. And so it's another reason why we're looking at an alternative solution. evolution. Hudson Garbage Service wants to continue that behavior going forward. Hopefully, whether it be one day domestically we find that customer, or, and again, I'm not predicting the future, but China makes some adjustments. It's taken decades to plug that behavior into our community. So,
Can I ask a question? Was this change related in any way to the tariff changes with China?
I don't think so, because this was initially, I mean, there's a lot of tariff talk right now. I don't think there was that kind of tariff talk going on. I mean, there was some on the national level, some I guess talk of bad trade deals and that sort of thing. There's no evidence that I've seen so far that links this with that kind of combativeness that's going on. This appears to be in response to environmental concerns in China.
Okay.
I've got two questions. And the first is, what's the parameters of the standard of what you call contaminated? What does that mean?
What is contaminated?
Yeah, because everything's you're saying that they are not accepting contaminated material down to a certain percentage, and I don't know what all that means.
That's a good point, Doug. I was educated. I was actually educated on this. I really was. So I did not know. I fell twice. I actually put plastic bags in my recycle. That is contaminated recycle. I should just be throwing them in the regular garbage. I did not know that. Cardboard, if it has even a little bit of styrofoam or plastic, and cardboard's a high commodity, it's no good. If it's even inside there, like this, and sandwiched, contaminated. So I felt two things, but there's a number of issues like that we was talking to her about this, maybe educating, because most of us want to do right, and I know I do.
To answer your question, Councilman Morton, is our county, our cities in general, it's a constant evolution of education. It's funny that you brought that up, and we segued into a potential plan with the Halloween Town, Tina Curry, and we're going to plug some new concepts in this next year. I took a little bit of your advice, and we are going to put a residential competition together. I thought that was a good plan. But great question. Contamination in our county and our cities have to get a lot better. And this is even prior to this national sword that China put out. We get a tremendous amount of contamination at the recycling center at the transfer station. And I took Mayor through it, and it's tough. A lot of our stuff currently goes into, unfortunately, into garbage once it's contaminated.
For the public, can you define contamination? What constitutes contamination?
China has called all plastic contaminants.
Oh, whoa.
All plastic that comes in a mixed waste bale. So, this stuff goes onto a line. And there is some plastic that can go over there, but it's got to be an identified bale of plastic. If this plastic comes in this thing that's supposed to be mixed waste paper, then it's a contaminant. So it's pretty easy for us to fail that test. These little pieces of plastic that roll through. So that's one.
And we've given you guys in your packet kind of a breakdown of some basic contamination issues. We get, unfortunately, we will even get sharps in our recycling centers, oil jugs that are not completely emptied, and it's curbside as well. And it's not just St. Helens; it's across the county. Actually, it's something that happens throughout the northwest. But because we have sorters and labor, which has intensified, we do have a cleaner product. It's just that it's a constant education process.
And this is going to go out to the public then?
Well, this is a sample.
Just
I mean,
a sample.
This is a sister company of ours, Sanapac in Eugene, and that's a sample of what the
So now I understand why
I think that would be helpful.
Eugene does not give out bags. If you want a bag, you pay for a bag, and then it's a paper bag. And that's the city ordinance. And of course I failed, and maybe that's why they did it is, the recycle was just getting too much of those plastic bags.
Mayor, I think kind of being hard on yourself. I think I gave you a C. I gave you a C.
He gave me a C. All right. That's average.
Yeah.
So the second part of the question is, do you see this as maybe possibly a temporary crisis at this point, nationally and worldly? That's a hard call for you, I'm sure. But if it is, that's good news for us. What kind of safeguards then, with this height increase, with the increase of monthly bills to our to the ratepayers for you, what kind of safeguards can you build in to adjust it if things do get back to a point where they are a month ago?
I definitely like to have Joe field this, but from my perspective, we've always kind of ridden that highs and lows of recycling. We've never seen something this dramatic, and that's why we're here today. But to give you that answer, I think, Joe, you might be able to feel that a little bit more comfortably than I'm hoping, at least.
Yeah, we're listening. So if there's some things that you have, we can pledge to come back here, every year and give you a report of what's going on. Over in Columbia County, there is a whole annual process where we're doing filing reports and that sort of thing. So if you guys don't want to get that deep in the weeds, we can kind of off that process provide you a recycling report or a market update. And I think we've been pretty good in the city of St. Helens. We really have not come for rate adjustments other than the disposal pass-throughs for quite some time. You guys have grown enough, or our efficiencies have been, as we've improved our processes, the kind of blend of those things have kept our need to ask for a rate adjustment very low here. So I think our history speaks to the fact that we're not here to rake you guys over the coals.
And I think another food for thought is what are other communities doing? And this is something that really resonates with me because the city of Portland has a substantial rate increase they're plugging in. Yet Washington County, I believe Clackamas County is doing this as well, and it's a tough thing to answer. It's a tough question, but I do believe that the statement of our history should validate this. It's a tough decision on our end as well.
Thank you.
Administratively, we have talked about how best to manage the increase, right? Whether it's built into the rate or it's like like the fuel market where fuel goes up to $5 a gallon. You see all these surcharges on your bill from contractors, and is that the best way to do it? Probably not. We felt there's some happy medium in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just as an aside, up in Seattle last week when this issue was above the fold front page, pictures of his warehouses just jammed to the gills with recycling, what to do about it, rate increases, all the same things we're talking about here. So they're very validating what you're saying. So.
DEQ mandates we set a certain threshold for recycling, and
I just want the St. Helens citizens to know that this was discussed at the city-county dinner too.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't something that's just happening in St. Helens. The whole county is aware of it. It's just the nature of the things of what's happening right now. So
there is a county-wide discussion about whether we continue to recycle this material or we start landfilling this material. And I think it's Hudson Garbage. You mentioned earlier, Herb. We believe that there's a positive element to recycling this material. A lot of it, most of it is still getting recycled. We would prefer that you not do that you would continue to recycle, There is some conversation at the county level of, asking the citizens, let's go back, to landfill this material, it's $89 a ton. To recycle this material, it's $140 a ton. difference to continue recycling is about 90 cents a month to a 35-gallon customer.
But the
So-
styrofoam and
Yes.
plastics that go into the landfill aren't recycled there.
Those-
They don't break down.
Right. Well, if they go in, once something's in a landfill, it's not recycled.
Yes.
I mean, they don't break down.
Right.
That's what I meant.
Right. We're advocating in our rate request to continue recycling for now, not to ask. We're going to ask through our education for people to improve what they're doing, to reduce the things that are contaminants, but to continue doing it. It's about a 94-cent cost to continue doing that. That's our recommendation. One of the things that I'm hoping to get as a message from you folks in your position on this is to go to the county and say, St. Helens is either for continuing to recycle, or you do have that option. This stuff is now more expensive to recycle than to landfill. So you could go the other way.
Well, we had
And then we
discussed
could
this last meeting, I think, for a little bit in our discussions, and I think the census of the whole council at the time was we'd hate to see our citizens get away from recycling because it's a good thing that, is helping the earth out. So
Good, that's the message.
It's all about
That's the
public
message we like.
education, and we need to probably spend some money to do that, but it'll pay off.
So let me ask you guys this: with going with cleaner material, do you think there could be some companies springing up in the United States that would do what China is doing over there? If we have cleaner material,
I think it's starting to happen. I mean, already we're able to move material in the U.S. that we were not able to move in the U.S. 6 months ago. With us cleaning the material up, some internal markets have opened.
okay.
Today in Portland at the Sheraton Hotel at the airport, there's a conference that's hosted by the National Recycling Coalition of people trying to generate ideas and collaborate to develop domestic solutions to use this material domestically now that it's getting cleaner. And just to, with the price point where it is now, China just stole the market for so many years.
Yeah.
And now it's back at a place where it may be viable to do things in
That's
the
what
U.S.
I was
I'm
curious
excited
at. Yeah,
actually
yeah.
about that potential in Oregon, in the Northwest, and elsewhere as well.
If we want to continue to recycle, it's costing more, and one of the potential positives from this is it could actually help our economy out if we had some new businesses spur up. Yep.
Yep. Short-term pain though.
Yes. Yep. Any other questions?
I appreciate your approach, and it's very welcomed by this councilman. And I hopefully we can go forward. Hopefully things change, whether it's what the mayor talked about in terms of our national businesses and corporations stepping forward, saying, "Hey, we can manage this. We can do some things." There are business opportunities for domestic enterprise. Yeah, I'm not certain what it is, but I'm glad to hear that your approach is to stay with this short term anyway. Thank you.
I might make one note on the ask here is for a rate increase, and that there's either two perspectives. One of them is rewinding at the end of the year, or one's kind of now going forward, and we're looking at a now going forward rate increase. So they're not asking for the whole nut there. So there's a happy medium here. So
It has been a tough course, though, Councilor Morton, definitely.
Oh, it's rough.
It's been tough.
Our paper mill here, they do a lot of recycling, and they have all the, you look at the brown bales they sit over there, and they look like brown bales, but if you get up close, there's plastic sticking out of them, envelopes with the little plastic windows in them.
I'm sorry.
And all that stuff, their filters only take out so much, so you can imagine when a little piece of plastic hits a 200-degree dryer, it sticks and shuts the whole thing down. So anyway, it's a big problem.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, City of St. Helens School district recreation collaboration. Matt?
So I do want to preface this is probably not my whole cup of tea, and Mayor Scholl, Councilor Kahn, and our city administrator John Walsh have been working on this along with a couple other employees, including Jenny and Shauna, on this project, along with our constituents at the school district and the superintendent. So very happy to be coming with you to give you some more information and talk about this. I am going to pass around a few things. I only have one copy. I was going to print out more, but I got here just as the meeting started, so I did not have time. So I am happy to make copies for you if you would like them. I can also email them to you. So what you are getting are 3 documents. The first is a kind of a rough sample catalog for the summer 2018, potentially if we continue to move forward. The second document is a draft of an intergovernmental agreement that is between the City of St. Helens and the school district for use of their facilities. And then the third document is a 6-question survey that we would hope to push out to citizens on our behalf, as well as the school district using their resources to push out the survey for us to get some more information about what programs to offer, what kind of support we would have if we got that program started. So a couple things to note. We've kind of been meeting over the last several months between us and the school district to identify kind of where we can go as offering recreational activities, and as far as creating a more central location to have them in. The school district, obviously one of their goals is to build a better community. That's obviously one of the goals of the city council. So by partnering with them to create this recreation program, we thought it's in the best interest of the city to work together and come up with some solutions. So that solution is what you see in front of you. There is still some more work to be done as far as finalizing the agreements between the two parties, as far as finalizing some of the programming that you see in there. The programs that you see in there, most of them are actually already here. They're already being done. There are a few programs that we've added in there, and depending on what the budget committee and city council decide to do as far as funding, we can kind of add and subtract as we kind of go to whatever kind of best fits the budget. I should note that Jenny helped write a grant for the Ford Family Foundation for $25,000. That was to partially fund the program as well as the part-time person that we are requesting in the budget committee. So if that goes through, we're hoping to hear back by May. Usually it's about a 2-month turnaround in general. So if we don't hear by May, I'll probably have Jenny or myself give the Ford family a call to kind of see where they're at. So hopefully before the end of the fiscal year, we'll know if we have that funding.
Nice.
Matt, on that note,
Yeah.
could I get at least 10 copies of that so that we can run that by the Parks Commission?
Correct. I meant to talk to that. Yes, that's
and
kind of one of the next steps.
Would you like to be on the agenda for the Parks Commission?
That would be fantastic if it's possible.
Okay, well, at this point, you could do it with, at this point, since the agenda is set, we could redo the agenda. I'd like to see that happen. But if not, you can always come in on the visitors' comments.
Yes.
And we can take the length of that 5 minutes and extend it.
That's next week, isn't it, Doug?
Yes, Monday.
Correct, next Monday. Yeah,
So it's a full meeting as well. So
correct. Yeah, I don't want to bog you down with,
just an indication of where you're at and what the proposal looks like.
Correct.
And I think the Parks Commission should be enlightened about that.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, if I could chime in on that. I feel like this issue is the Park and Rec is it's forming. It's kind of ready to kind of push out, do our media release, and the school district's really excited about it. There's some check-ins with the Parks Commission, perhaps, and then the budgetary impacts of this. If I kind of I'll probably re-say the same thing Matt just said, but there's some assumptions that as we push this out into the community that there's some funding that goes to that, and some of the programs are really no or low cost, and other ones have a little bit more management to it, and it does have some budgetary impacts with it. So things like grants and whatever we do at the council level, all impact that. So, but I think all in all, this is a great program, and it's coming together real nicely. And Matt's put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, Susan and I have sat in on those meetings too, and the school district is doing a lot of work too on the other side. It really is a partnership.
I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, yep.
I think it's something really needed in our community.
Thank you.
Yep. So just to kind of flash forward just a little bit to give you a heads up of what's kind of on the horizon is, like I said, we're finalizing the intergovernmental agreement that you saw a draft of that went out to the school district to review and give thoughts on. And then once we have that confirmed, that'll come back to the city council for approval. And then I will definitely meet with the Parks Commission. And then there may be a few other people to meet with kind of in between to touch base. We've had a lot of interest just from community members that have kind of asked about it in passing because they've kind of read into what we're doing. So there may be some outreach to them to kind of see what we can do as far as facilities and programming and that kind of stuff on that scale. But those are kind of the next steps coming up.
I'm glad you're outlining that calendar because that even draws more pertinence to getting it to the Parks Commission to possibly get their recommendation to the council of how they feel. Thank you.
And there will be a joint press release, right?
Yes, we're working on that right now. We drafted a press release that's gone around internally and then out to the school district for their thoughts and additions. And so we're finalizing that and the survey will be included in that press release,
Okay.
as well as pushed out to any kind of contact information that the city has that we can push out along with the school district.
I really look forward to seeing who steps up, and I know they will in the community and becomes mentors or you know, helps people and coach them along. And I was just talking to Doug, just whispered in his ear. And Doug has done a lot of coaching in his history, so you never know. You might be able to get him to volunteer every once in a while.
Yeah, and just to note, if I should make a mention that we do plan in the program that you see at the very end is an application for anyone within the city or outside that wants to teach a class or has a business that does something that wants to do a do-it-yourself class or a craft or an exercise class or anything like that. There's an application process that we're going to put in place for any community members that want to be part of this program.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Okay, letter of request from Greater St. Helens Park and Recreation District. I think we just kind of covered that, didn't we? Oh, no.
This is something
See where that happens?
So back on at the end of March, I received a letter from the Greater St. Helens Park and Rec District, the Board of Directors, that is included in your packet. So they are asking for consideration with the utility bill. If you read in the packet, they included a letter from one of the past board members and founders, Christine Eigensmith of Eigensmith Pool, that stated that there was kind of a gentleman's agreement back in the day for them to not pay water or sewer or storm. Obviously, with a gentleman's agreement, we don't have any paperwork or anything, and the council has changed, personnel has changed. A lot of things have changed in the past several years that from once this was apparently agreed upon. So,
including ownership of the pool.
Correct. That is true. Yep. So they're asking for consider.
What did you say?
Ownership of the pool. The school district used to own the pool.
Oh.
Wasn't there a sales agreement on that? Was that a handshake as well?
It could have been.
Remember fails me.
So they are asking for consideration of the gentleman's agreement that was agreed back then to continue. So it's presented to the council of I will kind of do what you would like me to process and do. So
well, we've made some requests of them too.
We have. So we made the request for them to potentially change their name because of the confusion that the city sees on our part of starting a Parks and Rec program, and that confusion that it creates on a property tax statement that people
And
see.
they definitely, in their letter, said no.
Correct.
Well, this is really interesting because with the formation of that thing, I think it was because of the tax base, it was deceiving. And it still is. I think most of the citizens that we talk to about our parks dilemma, it even came up in the sugar tax thing back in the public forum. Well, we already pay our taxes for the parks. Why? And that was most of the people in here at that time thought that that separate tax base was going to city parks because of the word parks. Now, is Eisenschmidt Pool a park?
Well,
Is it a park? It's a recreation for sure. But is it a park? Now we have parks. The city has parks. So here lies the dilemma: is that since I would think that almost anyone would think that they are not a park, and that's why there's that deception when it comes to ballot measures, and they're a separate tax district. Well, we're a separate tax district as well. So we got to pay our bills, they got to pay their bills. Their board inherited that dilemma. It isn't something that was new or whatever. And I know that they have a very effective, very active board, and they don't want to give that up. And so what they did do is ask for the park that is next to Eisenschmidt Pool. I wonder why. Because then they could say for sure that they were parks, park and recreation, not parks.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's some game playing here and some posturing or whatever, but the handshake deal way back when in 1990, 89 or 90, I don't know if that has any pertinency today. The sum is $200,000 a year. Is that correct? What the total water bill would be? What is this where'd this $200,000 figure come from?
The 200 or 25,000?
25,000.
I think it was
It's
25,000.
25,000.
Okay.
And that is roughly about what we believe their sewer, water, and storm bill would be, based on their usage and then their impervious surface.
Okay.
I'd like to, I think it is going to be confusing for the public, particularly since we're coming out with this Recreation and Parks program, because Greater St. Helens Park and Rec is primarily just swimming related, and which is absolutely a recreation, but it's not as broad. It'd be nice if we could include them in collaborating with us.
We did reach out initially. When talking with the school district, we kind of thought of a tripod of organizations in the community that should work together. When I met with the board along with Scott, who went with me that night to talk with the board, they were not interested at that time to partner with us. I think they were a little too concerned about what potential costs of the program it may cause them. They were all up for us using their facility or doing programs, but for some reason they did not want to partner with us at that time.
Their letter also stated that the impact would have profound effects on their management of the pool to facilitate what they're doing now. Did they ask for some kind of feed in to getting the appropriate, like a timeline to bring them up to the full payment?
They did not ask for a timeline. When I spoke to you about the unbilled accounts a while ago, that was, I think, back in February or March. We had talked about not starting it right away, but giving them time and starting it in July because they operate on the same kind of fiscal year as us. So it was kind of the perfect time for them to include it in their budget. Annually, they get about $400,000 or so from the property tax base here for the Greater St. Helens Park and Rec. Looking at their budget, I did not see, in my personal opinion, how it would impact them if it had to. They have a little over $100,000 or so in contingency money, so this would take a portion of that, so they could incorporate it without raising any rates or anything. But obviously, if they have financial policies of what to keep in reserve and all that kind of stuff, those I'm not aware of. But they do get around that $400,000 a year to operate the Ida Schmidt pool.
I'd like to reopen the discussion on the name, on the confusion around that. I think that's relevant too.
As far as moving that into kind of a negotiation with the water.
Yeah. I mean, I've lived here for so long. I've never ever seen that, even a signage out front of the Ida Schmidt schools saying that they're even part of a Parks and Rec district. I could be wrong. There may be a little emblem somewhere, but it's really not announced very well that that's what it is. It just says, "Welcome to Ida Schmidt Pool."
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so that's another key point, is there is no
Confusion.
advertisement. Yes. That's what it is.
Kind of like the Fair building.
Cool.
And it's been there since 89 or 90,
Yeah.
the district.
And I completely support the idea of having the swimming pool. I think it is a safety issue.
Correct, and the city did offer, when we spoke last time at the board, the city did offer to pay for new signage or new, papers or letterhead or the signage outside. We did put that on the table to say that we would help pay for that because we're asking for this request.
So they're asking for our goodwill, and I would like to see
So-
goodwill in return.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but in our water bill discussion that we had, we only had one discrepancy. I think it was a fire district, we thought, but it wasn't. Come
There
back
ended
to
up being
find
only
out.
one, which is Ida Schmidt Pool. The one that I thought was the fire district was actually the joint maintenance facility that our Public Works Department shares. And then the other ones were basically construction properties that are in the process of building. So,
Being built.
yeah, so
Yeah, I
they
think-
open an account, it stays in a pending status until it's
Yes,
done.
yep,
and then it
I
goes
understand that.
I think there needs to be some sort of justification for our making an exception.
Well, I certainly think talks should continue with the Greater St. Helens Parks and Recreation District name. I think that's deceiving, and who loses on that is the city of St. Helens because of that deception. And so I'd like to see that continue. I certainly don't want to pull the carpet, hate to see the carpet pulled out from underneath the management and the board of that facility abruptly. I think they should know about it and have ample time to plan. Now, if you were their finance director, you would probably say, "Ooh, can we pay 50% of that or 25% on some kind of scale to get ourselves back on board?" You did say they had contingency money, so I'm not certain how that should go, but I think the abruptness will put a halt to any kind of negotiations that we might have of a name change and somehow partnering with them. So that's my feeling, and I'm at this point opposed to the park acquisition.
Sure.
We don't want to give up that park.
Yep. Yep.
And I don't think there was any intent on their part when it was way back when they made it a special district I think the intent was probably to have other recreation and to be a larger entity.
Correct. I think when
resulted in.
Yeah, from what I heard from them back when you were going through negotiations of potentially leasing that property or something, there were plans of a splash pad or outdoor spray park kind of thing. They've since abandoned that idea as of right now. It's not in their plan.
If they had a plan like that, I would push for it. But there's no plan, and
Well, and more than a splash pad,
yeah, exactly.
recreation.
Yes.
But there's no plan in place.
So I'm going to agree with Doug. I think we go somewhere like in the 50% range right now. I like where you're going with that, Doug. And it leaves a little bit of opening for discussion because I'm still not happy with it either. We're just trying to do something here right by our community, and they are a taxing district. The city, the citizens, how far does the district go, the taxing district, Matt? Let me ask you this. Is it school district? Is that kind of where it reaches out to?
I'm
think
not
it
100% sure.
Is it beyond St. Helens city limits?
I think it's
believe
school
so. I
district.
think it is similar
So
to
then
the
that
school
is not fair to our citizens. So at minimum 50%,
Mm-hmm.
because our citizens are paid for that water treatment facility down there. So absolutely, and that was what brought up the whole discussion. If they need to know, that's why we would need to know. You were going through, and the senior center, even we are billing, but actually it's a donation.
Yeah.
So, they're struggling with Meals on Wheels and everything else. So clearly a need there. They don't have a huge budget and don't have a taxing district,
Yeah.
so to speak.
So, if I'm understanding, the general consensus of the council was first to kind of create a gradual plan to get to the full payment. Councilor Khan suggested, if I'm not paraphrasing, but offering some kind of a negotiating factor for the name. She, I think, suggested was if they do decide to change their name, we could create an agreement to not bill them for water for however many time or years or whatever, creating an official agreement. Is that something the council is interested in doing?
I am. I am, because it's so confusing. I absolutely am. I think it would pay dividends to this whole community.
Councilor Locke?
And I'd like to see us continue talking about including them in our plans
into the
for
program. Yeah.
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 The bottom line is they own that name. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
Is there? Do we have a leg to stand on legally?
I have reached out to the attorneys to see because I don't know if the name is technically trademarked or what the process is as far as creating a district, and then if it's...
Well, I think it's an ethics issue because there's a deception to the voters.
Well, I think it's just confusing. I don't think
It's confusing.
Listen, I know the guys over there on the board, and they're good guys, and they're just trying to make they're just trying to make sense of it. But we definitely need to be charging them something as sooner than later, Matt.
Yep.
Okay, because we know about it now.
Well, I'll work on the fade-in program started in July, like we had told them. I'm happy to do that. I just want to know if the council, if I did throw back to them, a negotiating tactic of saying we can work with you a little bit more if you're willing to change your name.
Again, I would like to say that this district reaches outside the city limits, so we're giving those citizens that live outside the city limits free water for the pool that they are paying for, and our citizens, the isolated citizens of St. Helens, are the ones who are paying for the treatment, the water filtration system that went in. The $11 million, I think, is what it cost.
15.
15 million, Keith? Okay.
Well, and
15 million.
As Doug pointed out, it was when whatever this agreement was initially, it was between different people on their board and different people on our council.
Totally.
And it's word of mouth.
The name change doesn't have to be that drastic. It can just simply have the word aquatics in it. It could be an aquatics park. Eisen Smith Pool could. But it just needs to have that connotation, I would think. And it doesn't need to be a drastic name change. And I think we could work with them with that. I don't think that's beyond their scope or our scope.
I think you've done a good job as far as reaching out, you and Scott Stockwell, and trying to even offer for signage and everything else. I mean, we're definitely putting effort and not trying to be mean, bullish, or anything like that. So I applaud you for that.
We do have to justify making an exception for them, though.
Yep.
Somehow.
Okay,
So-
I will reach back out to him.
And
The history all started when our water was dirt cheap, or H2O cheap,
Yes.
so to speak. We had very low water rates when I first started on the council, and besides that, it was subsidized with the timber and whatnot, and so that's why it was so low. But now it's way up there, and everybody has to pay their fair share. Bottom line.
Well, a lot of that was because the feds came around and said, hey, you guys need to be up your standards to the Water Act of 1972. It was below standards.
Well, we grew, and yeah,
Yeah, so that water plant did not come cheap.
no.
Just to remember, when you discuss with signs, that we do have sign regulations. So
yes,
we'll wanna
City
make-
Planner Jacob Gretchen.
We don't want to
Ladies and
forget
gentlemen,
those.
Jacob.
Cardboard in a
Jacob,
tub.
That will go through you.
I think we're about done on this discussion, and I'm gonna actually. Everybody good on this? Okay. I'm gonna have you kind of help the discussion regarding the property on Millard Road, the rezoning. So your mic's not on.
Yeah, if you can you full screen that, Kathy? So I know Rick's name was on this for the agenda, but I figured, well, I better come down and
Yes. You
prime-
just slid in anyhow.
prime the discussion. I just want to, this is a 10-minute map, not a lot of labels, but it's an illustration for discussion. So the property we're talking about is here in the blue, and this piece of yellow. And what this is our comprehensive plan map. And when we talk about new uses, this is the first thing that we have to look at, because the comprehensive plan determines the zoning determines uses allowed and disallowed. So you have the Millard Road Hospital property, for lack of a better name there. Anything that is solid is in city limits. Anything with the diagonal hash pattern is outside the city limits, but within the urban growth boundary. And as you can see, this is light blue. That's public lands. We have public lands zoning here and there throughout the city. This has been under this designation since at least 1978, so it's been considered public lands for a long time. You have the St. Helens Bible Church here that was annexed several years ago as part of the sewer line extension for what was going to be a hospital. Of course, that failed. As you can see all around, you have this yellow color, so there's a consistent comprehensive plan designation there. And then this is actually a unincorporated mobile home comprehensive plan designation. So I just want you to understand what's going on there while I talk about it. I'm going to sit back down.
What's the designation around that piece of property? The light yellow.
Yeah, because you can see some little parcels there, huh? Fairly little guys there, right across the street.
That is rural suburban unincorporated residential.
Okay.
And
So that would be what to us?
all right, so that's kind of where I'm going.
Okay.
So I think basically is you want to change that from public lands to something else to allow for a broader array of uses.
That's right.
Okay. So you have a few choices. I mean, you can direct us to do anything from heavy industrial, but the clear choices to me are as follows. Since it's on all four sides, basically the RSUR, upon annexation under that zoning designation, basically you're looking at a R7 or R5. And we have experience with R7 and R5 from the Emerald Meadows Estate subdivision. So I can go into that, density if you want. But basically, the larger the number, the lower the density. So R10 is even lower, but it's not really on the picture here. And so that would allow R7 or R5. The solid yellow is R7, so there is some adjacent R7 zoning. R7 is a little more geared towards the single-family dwelling. Duplexes are allowed, but apartments are not. The R5 is a higher density, and that's where you can get apartments too. Okay? So those are a couple options. Another potential option, just because it's in close proximity, and that's the only reason I'm mentioning it, is mobile home residential. Now, I'm sure that would be an interesting public hearing because the title itself lends something to people's imagination. But what's possible in that zoning district are, of course, manufactured home parks, RV parks, single-family development at a R5 density, as well as apartments. And so pretty flexible. Generally, what I've seen anywhere in our comprehensive plan that has that unincorporated mobile home park designation is a property that already has a park on it or is close to it, and that's the case here. But that's an option to consider. Another one that we could look at is the comprehensive plan designation that would allow the highest density possible. And originally, in talking with the mayor about it, I think I joked about that sarcastically, but when I read our comprehensive plan, there's a policy in there, and that would be the general residential category. It says, encourage infill of undeveloped properties that are undeveloped due to topography to achieve a more efficient use of land. This property has a lot of things going on with it. There's that light blue shading, which are wetlands. So you have wetlands, you have the creek going through there. It's long and skinny. And, having it be undeveloped largely, except for a little bit of paving work, could work. We might be able to pass the test. Now, would it pass the test politically from the neighbors and stuff like that? I don't know. So I think the path of least resistance would be to go with the designation that it's surrounded by. That would be hard to argue. And one thing we could do is, if you want to go that route, and we can use the public hearing processes for the change to determine whether it should be R5 or R7. Because it is a large property, and even though there's not R5 in the area, I think R5 is a good idea just to get more benefit from the property because of how it is.
Because of how skinny it is?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. The skinny,
Yep.
the wetlands, the fact that our transportation plan has a road going through there. You have this property that for 40 years has been looked at as public lands and has had wetland delineations, or wetland impact. I can't think of the word, but mitigation.
It's already been done, right?
Yeah, wetland bank stuff that's been done.
Yes.
And so because of that history, there's a lot of encumbrances.
Sure.
And so the higher density.
And that's kind of why I mentioned to Jacob,
Yeah.
could it be apartment residential and maybe R7?
Okay, I have a
You
question.
And it could be a blend of things.
We saw a presentation, or some of us did, at CAT, and some of us were involved in it, I think, on cluster homes. And I'm just wondering what designation those fall under. Just curious.
None.
None.
We don't have rules for those.
We don't. So they could be under any, or they can't. exist.
They can't exist.
They can exist. We do have plan development overlay. In fact, you're going to look at that tonight, actually. You have a hearing. And what the plan development overlay does is it doesn't let you have a greater density. And speaking with Scappoose, their cottage cluster allows, I think, 150% density. We don't have the rules in our books yet. But the plan development would keep the same density as the underlying zone, but you throw out your lot dimension and size standards. So you're not constrained by this thou shall have a geometric shape of so.
Yeah. Well,
So you can make the puzzle easier.
One of the things that impressed me was all of the green space that they allowed for in that type of housing. They were smaller lots, so higher density, but you still had a lot of shared space.
And you could easily have it with this. Any subdivision, those wetlands are going to be open space.
Right.
And I haven't seen Public Works or the council saying, yeah, we want to take more wetlands on for maintenance. And so chances are you're going to have a lot of shared open space, although it's going to be natural space and not exclusively recreational.
But I think there's a draw to that, personally.
Yeah, the kids will be down there catching bullfrogs.
There's a lot of them.
Yes.
I'm concerned about transportation and the cause and effect of heavy density as our city expands that direction. What do we have in making any kind of decision? What do we have before us for a transportation plan on Millard Road that we could base some of our decision on? Because to me that's a huge issue. If that's heavy density and other kinds of lands become heavy density in that area, it's going to I think it's going to cause massive problems. We have those kinds of problems on Gable Road that as it goes by the high school, that section of Gable Road. And how long have we been working on that to fix that problem? Ever since I've been on the council, and it still isn't there. There's plans, there's more plans, and that kind of thing. And it's very, very dangerous. That's one of the worst intersections I can imagine, Highway 30 and Gable Road. It's especially going to the high school. And so I just hopefully would like to see some kind of transportation plan that we have as an overlay to that property before I make any kind of decision.
So to answer your question, Doug, a little bit is we're doing that riverfront corridor, and that actually is going to target. The state has announced already that it'll be putting a stoplight in Millard Road.
Mm-hmm. I understand that.
And then we're doing a study on the other opposite side of Millard Road for the riverfront corridor, and we actually have a grant, and we've had our first meeting, and the second meeting's coming up here real soon. I mean, like next week, I think, sometime, right? Looking at Jenny, and she's shaking her head, yes, so I'm right. So I think it is a bad intersection right now. You're right. That flashing yellow is just not, you come to that intersection, and most people will cut through Bing's parking lot if you're like I am a local and know that little bit of a little bit easier getting out of.
That's the way it goes now, is most people will cut off and go through Bing's and go through that parking lot, and that's just the shortcut to take. And then there's no stop sign there either that I know of. There could be, but most people run that stop sign. It's just, it's like, okay, we're just going to throw, fuel on the fire, and that without a plan. And
So Doug, let me answer that, if I may. So embodied in both state law and local law, we have requirements for traffic analysis. And we do have a transportation systems plan that we updated in 2010, which identifies certain improvements to help maintain the functionality of the system. Fortunately, ODOT is putting in that signal, which is going to increase the capacity of that intersection and would help minimize any impacts development of this property or other properties along this area would have. So that helps. But in the process, there's kind of two places where we have to look at it. And it's called the transportation planning rule. And one is when we play with the colors on our maps. We're supposed to address it at that time. And so if we're changing it from public lands to some other residential density, we're required by law to examine the reasonable worst case scenario. So we look at public lands and what's the reasonable worst case scenario there as far as development and trip generation, vehicular trip generation. And then we look at, so, you know, maybe we'll say a hospital or something. Actually, I was looking at those numbers this morning.
That's a good point. The hospital probably would have created more traffic than a residential, right?
Yeah, so that, well, maybe. I haven't crunched all those numbers. Yeah. The higher trip generator as identified in the uses allowed in this zone would be a junior community college, which is more than a hospital. And then you compare that to whatever your density is and make some determinations on, you know, is there an increase in vehicular trips? Not, and does that trip up the functional aspect of the system? And we may be able to change the designation without hiring a traffic consultant if we can make those findings. I still haven't been in a situation where the city initiated a change and we kind of got stuck. And the fact that the junior college has a pretty high trip generation, we may be able to get past that. But that's all conceptual. You know, it's all about the reasonable worst case scenario. The real world stuff comes into play when you have a development. And our code says that any development which is going to trigger more than 250 average daily trips, and then there's an AM and PM peak. I can't remember what the number is. And a typical single-family dwelling creates 10 daily trips. So if you have a subdivision that's 25 or more lots, the analysis is triggered. And given the size of this property, that could easily be the case. And developers are used to this. You know, we're not unique. It's all across the state. Any large subdivision or apartment proposal is going to have a traffic analysis. And if that traffic analysis shows that, like we like to call in the business, that an intersection is going to blow up, they have to provide mitigation measures to do so. In the Emerald Meadows subdivision, the Four Corners had a slight blow up, but that was mitigated by the installation of a dedicated northbound right turn lane. Easy, luckily. Other cases could be more expensive. The Violets Villa development, we're going to have to look at Gable Road really carefully. And in fact, I'm having discussions on the first application we have for an office complex where it's like, oh man, what's happening to Gable? And so we're very well aware of that issue. But that's kind of how it works. My hope would be able to kind of get past that through the zone change, because it's going to be required of any development that occurs in that property anyways.
All right, just back to my original question. It'd be nice to have that study before us if we're going to render any kind of judgment on any kind of proposal for that area.
So other studies that we could get beat up on and make a decision on this is needed housing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Needed housing studies required by state statute. The closest thing we have is from periodic review from 1998. Though we are having conversation with the the Department of State Lands, or DLCD, Department of Land Conservation and Development, too many acronyms and agencies. And they have a bill or something where they can help cities fund these things and In fact, I just talked to our DLCD rep yesterday about that. And I don't know when that's going to happen. Hopefully sometime in the next couple years. I think we can make some arguments to justify whatever decision you make absent of that. It just depends on when you want to pull the trigger.
So the reason I brought this up, Doug, is because we have to rezone this in order to even do those studies. And if we, just for the public, we're not going to rezone it mobile home, by the way. That's for sure. We're going to respect the neighbors and what's around there.
Yeah.
But we got to get it zoned in order to be able to look at those studies and also make it presentable to a developer, because it's not even zoned. It's not even zoned right now, which is a process in itself. And it's just a recommendation. It'll be up for public hearing. We will have people come in. There's still going to, the process is still going to happen, but we have to take this initial step to get it there.
What's the right of way on that road? What's the width right of way?
I think a lot of it's 40 feet. We did get some dedication, if memory serves me correctly, when that property developed. And we get rights of way when there's partitions, so it does vary, and you can kind of see
And
some
that's
of the
another thing,
variability.
that right of way is up in 2020. If we don't do something quick on Chase Road,
Yeah.
it's no longer.
Yeah, it could be terminated in writing.
Yep.
There
That
was-
was another reason I was kind of looking at it too and eyeballing it, and just make it attractive. Once word gets out that it's rezoned, I'm sure we'll have people calling us.
So your recommendation is R5, right?
My recommendation would be to go with the comp plan designation, which is on all four sides of the property already. I think that's hard to argue, because it's consistent with the overall neighborhood.
Which is R7. Or R5.
Well, some county zoning.
Okay. So R5.
But under that comprehensive plan designation, we can go R7 or R5. R7 allows more options, is a greater density, and because it's such a large property, it'd be easier for us to argue that it's not a spot zone or something like that. Although, if there was a lot of pushback...
What do you mean a spot zone, Jacob?
A spot zone means, for example, let's say you took one of those little properties on there,
Yeah.
and someone said, well, I want to zone this heavy industrial for my Gidget factory.
Okay.
And that wouldn't really be consistent with the zoning pattern, and you're just creating a...
Gotcha.
I-
Yep. Okay.
It's kind of an alien zone that doesn't make sense there,
Okay.
essentially. And anyways, R5 would be a more efficient use of the land, and it would be more attractive given all the encumbrances on it.
And that's the whole thing, is those wetlands is what you're talking about. The encumbrance of actually being able to utilize the land to its potential. R5 is really the way we should be looking at that.
I'm sure you could make things happen with R7. There's
But it wouldn't utilize all the actual buildable land to the most efficiency.
R5 would be higher density, more efficiency, sure, yeah.
Is there any rule against making it a mixed?
Yeah.
R7 in the back and R5 up towards wetlands.
So that would be one of the things we could determine as part of the process is, if you go with that comprehensive plan designation, we have those options, and it's going to be, R7, R5, and then the other question is, do we leave anything as public lands, given, there's various things in a comprehensive plan, such as the parks plan, that we're going to have to examine.
We do have the Ross Road property, which
Right.
is in proximity to
Sure,
the.
but that's one of the things we're going to have to discuss.
Yeah.
That could be the park.
And, right now I can't see the future. I don't know how full this room's going to be. I don't know what the planning commission's going to say, other committees of interest.
Sure.
That'll shape the conversation.
Yep.
But you could end up with a situation where you have R7, R5, and some of the property remaining public lands.
So R5 though would make entry-level homes. Is that correct?
Based on the testimony from the Emerald Meadows estate.
Yes, that's what I
yes,
heard.
Yeah.
That's what I heard too. So
the
Would it allow for duplexes?
yes, R5 doesn't.
yeah, in both cases, duplexes are allowed.
Okay.
R5 is more friendly to duplexes.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That both were allowed on.
But knowing that we have that other property, which is adjacent, I think, isn't it? Don't we have more property adjacent to that yet?
No,
No.
that's it.
That's including,
The Ross Road is over a ways and then kind of.
okay, I thought we had a little bit more.
Yeah, there's nothing else contiguous.
Okay.
There are some pieces there that some of the property owners talked about maybe developing if we developed that.
Yeah, how would that work out, Jacob? Would that be up to the developer? If we rezone this, it's up to if the developer decides they want to work with some homeowner approaches them, then they got to have it,
That'd be separate.
bring it to us at a separate deal and another public hearing and the whole works, right?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, obviously, they would probably need to annex.
Okay. But agreed that if we rezone this, it's the first step and that a developer would it be attractive to a developer? I mean, there's no other steps to do this. Is the first one.
Yeah, we need to do this if we're going to do anything.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's when a developer talks to us and says, well, what's the zoning? Public lands. What can I do with that? No, there's about a half dozen things. And all we have to rezone it, and it's been zoned like this or designated like this since 1978, and we don't know what kind of neighborhood opposition there'll be. And then you turn around and the developers run out of the room.
Yep.
So if you're looking at repurposing this land, yeah, changing it from public lands is the first step.
Let's do it.
So that's, and I'm assuming that's why Rick put it on the list.
Yep.
That's why I'm here to discuss it.
I appreciate you being here.
So I understand what we're putting on the queue. So
we have to start at some point.
yeah, so are you leaning towards the same comprehensive plan designation as is on all four sides?
Okay.
Does
Yeah.
this go before the planning commission?
Absolutely. Yep.
And when will that be?
Well, that's a good question, and that's the reason I said we would put it on the queue.
I got it.
Because the queue is full, and we would have to. What we do is we issue a draft report. We get that to DLCD. That needs to get to them 35 days before the first hearing. And then we start figuring out our public hearings. But staff has only looked at this at the 10,000 foot level. You know, we'd start kind of digging into the weeds. The other thing that I would like to do with this process is we have assembled a lot of information about it over the years. And I would also like to take this opportunity to organize that information. And so we have the zone changed, here's the wetlands and other things we know in an organized fashion, which is going to help move on to the next step and getting someone interested in it and working out a deal. But I would guess the first meeting would be mid-year if I looked into my crystal ball.
Public hearing come before the council or come before the planning commission?
Yep. Mhm.
Both?
Yep.
Yeah, good.
So at least two. At least two.
All right.
So, question.
Keith, you're double mic'd over there. What's
Yeah.
up with
I gotta make up for Jenny not being here.
Make sure it can be heard.
Stereo. So we've talked about Castor Road, the front of the mill property. This process has to go for that piece also. Do we want? Does it help to piggyback this, or what do we do?
Yeah, so I guess I'm glad you brought that up.
there's a lot to juggle right now, and right now is a good time to worry about this property.
Because it has all the stuff that you
It's
can dig up, right?
Timelines,
It's a hot potato.
Yes.
2020.
Yes.
It's a hot potato because of the easement, the history of it, you know, the hospital thing, it getting into our ownership, which some people didn't like.
Yep.
They're wanting some closure. The people who had to pay the public health tax want some closure. So it's a hot potato. Then we have all this other property. And right now, there's not a lot of activity on it. But at any time, that could explode. I would love for this to be done when those explosions start occurring.
Gotcha.
Just for the sake of our own sanity and ability to do our jobs right. Because this stuff takes time.
Right.
So piggybacking,
The mill site could be closer than you think.
I know, and that's why I said it can explode at any time. I mean, we can start looking at that. And if you want to get some of that in the queue, that's probably something to discuss. But they are independent matters.
Right.
And to
I just
tie them
wonder
up
if
in the
there's
same...
time savings by putting them together.
No. Yeah, if you tied them up in the same application, it would probably make things more complicated than they need to be.
Keith, why don't you
Really.
just bring it up, and when you think that it's getting close, bring it up. We'll put it on the queue.
Piggyback has a negative connotation.
Okay.
And then
Take a number.
Wait your turn.
do you have any strong feelings about the zoning, or do you just want to let the process guide that?
I think the process guide it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's probably the best approach.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Like I said,
We don't want to
we're
let
being
the zoning, though, eliminate, some lower income housing
Yes.
and whatnot.
Okay. So keep below market rate housing options in mind. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Mixed would be ideal.
So it has to be. It does have to be a juggling act because we need to do right by those people that did pay that for the hospital, and right by the neighbors that already have surrounding there. So we need to make it affordable, yet we don't want to infringe on putting something so compact that it affects neighbors. So good luck. Hopefully the planning commission will recommend a mixed bag there that fits. Or you guys can come up with it, staff.
Yeah, once we start digging into it, we may go, there's always that kind of thing that happens.
Yep.
So,
And please keep me posted if you need to, when you think you might have it, and just so I can look at it. And I know council will probably appreciate an email as well. Okay?
okay.
All right.
So in that discussion of priorities, I think there's, the real versus the possible. If somebody comes in with a real proposal, I think we have to be pretty responsive and kind of
Yeah.
Oh,
try to
yes.
juggle priorities.
Yeah.
We're not going to turn away.
This project is something that's
Time sensitive.
Possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a time sensitive with the easement piece of it.
Yep. Sewer and water's there. It's ready,
Always difficult.
ready to dig, people.
Very challenging.
Come see John Walsh.
Already.
Come see John Walsh down at City Hall. 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Maybe. Not quite.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. Okay, review bid invitation for timber sale. John.
All right, a few months ago, we had a report from our forester, Mason Bruce Gerard, that went through the inventory that we have at our property out on Pittsburgh Road, though, the 2,400 acre city-owned tree farm out there. And he talked about the market and the aging of our timber, and we looked at a couple of different potential sales. And there was two that were maybe I should state kind of the city's goal with is to have the sustainable yield formula. So, so it's 2,400 acres. You're going to cut, around 60 acres a year would be probably, or if you wanted to have it cut every single year. We don't cut every year, and we haven't. I think it was 3 years ago we had the last cut, and we cut 80 acres. This is looking to cut 52 acres on a section 28, and this is the bid documents for that. And there's some maps in the packet. I don't know if you can pull them up to orient where you're at there. Timber, we learned at our last meeting is at an all-time high right now, 20-year high. I don't know if it's an all-time high, but it's at least a 20-year high. So we are looking for the council's permission to take this out to bid. It's a 52, like I said, one of the two sections that was in the range of 35 to 40 years. That was ripe for sale. Some special conditions you might be interested in. This, because we're already in March, our forester is recommending that we offer a 2-year option. So the logging firm that would get the bid would have up to 2 years to complete all the work. But that doesn't mean we don't get the money before that. As part of the bid, they give a bond, and then by August 31st, they're going to give us half of the total value of the stumpage, and by February 28th of 19, we'll have all of the revenue. So we could basically prepay for the logging firms are very excited about that. They like to have that flexibility for fire seasons and wood shutdowns and things that happen, winter conditions, things that allow good timing to get in and out. I think that's about the extent of it. I don't know
How does the bid process go out on that? Do we let
that is managed through Mason, Bruce, and Gerard. They're kind of connected into that world, and we've used them exclusively for a number of years and had a very good relationship.
Okay, that's all. My only question for it.
Yes, do it.
Do it. Okay.
Doug?
Well, they've been very accountable, I think, in the past.
Yeah, they're good firm.
I'm saying it gives I think, a very thorough report. I'm impressed with them.
Okay.
I mean, there's really no downside to the 2 years because the trees, they're paying per board foot, so they grow another 2 to 3%, and it's that much more mass to sell, but we're trying to capture the timing in the market to get the price. So it seems like it's a good shared risk. So.
Well, if the price goes up.
Yeah. It's always possible. It could also go down.
Okay. You get what you need?
Yes,
Okay, department reports. Tina, would you like to start us off? Okay. I don't mind. Margaret, you need to click on your mic, though.
The first thing I wanted to ask the council for was permission to waive a public hearing requirement for the placement of a Arts and Cultural Commission bike rack. The municipal code says that requirement for a public hearing can be waived only, or is not required, I should say, only if the project cost, design, and construction cost is less than $750 and the size of the artwork is smaller than 2 feet in height, 2 feet in width, and 2 feet in depth. A bike rack is larger than that, but the cost is much less than $750. And the particular project in question is a bike rack that was created to go in front of the IGA grocery store by the metal arts students at the high school. So it's the one that's on the right that shows all the food. The other one to your left was installed in front of Top Notch. And since the bike rack was created, the IGA has decided against having it placed in front of their store. So the alternate location that's being proposed is in front of the current feed and seed store, which will eventually be the food bank. And the commissioner that's in charge of this project has approached both the current user of the property and also the food bank, and they both are receptive to having the bike rack placed there. It's just that it just doesn't seem like a particularly significant enough project to require a public hearing. And I believe we had a similar public hearing waived for the other installation. But Jacob and Public Works and the owner of the property would all be consulted about the eventual location.
And that's a bike rack?
Yeah, we have one somewhat similar to that in front of the library that looks like books on a shelf. Our design's a little more open, but what people do is they just pull their bike up next to it, and then they run a cable through the hole and through the wheel of their bike. And there's another bike rack like that in front of the chamber that has evergreen trees.
Do they say bike rack on them?
They have a plaque that says who the artist was. The one at the library gets used quite a bit. We have talked about the possibility of maybe.
I know they put one. I think the first one went down at Great Cliffs Park, and it's a fish down there, or I can't remember what it is now. Anyway, it looks like a piece of art, and nobody used it for a long time.
Well,
because they
one
thought
thought
it was art and not a bike rack.
Yeah, one of the thought I had is we could take some of those bikes at the police department that have gone unclaimed and
attach them,
lock them to some of these bike racks so people realize that's their use. But yeah, they're very frequently used at the library.
Well, I mean, it's just me, but I feel that if something like that's going to be used as a bike rack, it should say bike rack on it for people to know that.
I can't tell you for certain if the plaque says
Because
bike
they
rack.
ended up doing that to the one down here at Great Cliffs.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Was it a plaque or just a?
It's a little plaque on it, yeah.
Okay. Well, we always have plaques made to show who the artist was, to give them credit for their creation. So these will have plaques on them that say this, if possible, the names of the specific students, but if not, it'll reference the metal arts class at the high school that made them.
We could add bike rack to it.
Sure. So my request is to waive the need to hold a public hearing to install this in front of the future site of the food bank. Because all the parties involved are in agreement with placing it there.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So it'll be on the sidewalk? Where will it be placed?
Yes.
On the sidewalk, city property.
Yes.
In the city right away.
'Cause it's a fairly narrow sidewalk right now. Well, I guess.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. The lawnmowers won't be there no more. So.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And-
yes.
and-
If the lawnmowers could park there, I could see where bikes could park there if they're not there no more.
And Roger said he thought it would be best to wait until the feed and seed moves out and then place it after that.
Yes.
So does that seem reasonable to waive the public hearing?
Did they, tell me about the arts and cultural group. Did they have any kind of open hearing regarding this at all, by chance?
About just discussing where to place it?
Place it, and or did the public have a chance to weigh in on this?
That's what a public hearing would be.
At the arts and cultural, not in front of the council.
Well, it's been an ongoing discussion in the meetings, but I can't say that we've had a lot of public attendance at all those meetings. But
I think the arts and cultural group should hear it.
The arts and cultural, that's our project.
Yeah, it is theirs. So it's kind of like us with our waterfront, Doug.
It's on the agenda every meeting.
It's kind of like us with our waterfront when you have people say they're going to do a waterfront watch program, and we've done all this outreach.
Yeah.
It's no different.
I know.
Okay, that's what they're going through right now. So.
Doug, it's the just to clarify, it's the Arts and Cultural Commission that would be required to do the public hearing.
Right.
And this is saying, can we waive that for all the reasons why Margaret explained?
Yeah, I understand that. I was confused about whether that public hearing was going to be in front of the council or in front of Arts and Culture.
No, it would just be an additional time slot for arts and cultural.
Okay.
And the reason this thing is in the municipal code to allow people to waive the hearing for smaller items is that, you know, the significance of a project that costs very little money and is not very physically imposing. It's a lot of time and effort for something that's relatively small and insignificant. We felt this, even though it's smaller, I mean, it's larger than the municipal code requirement, we felt fell into that category that didn't warrant a hearing.
I think we've had public hearings in the past for previous bike racks without anyone really showing up to object.
Then it's a moot point. If you advertise the public hearing and no one shows up, then it's a moot point. I mean, you haven't expanded that energy and all of that. I'm not certain. I'm pretty interested in the process, especially the public process of people having the opportunity to weigh in on something like this, because it could come back to bite us if we don't have a public hearing.
Okay.
And it's in our code to do that.
All right, well, we'll do just that. Okay.
I don't think it'd be an energy burn from what Susan says.
All right, we'll be sure to put it on our agenda next time.
Thank you.
The other things that I wanted to mention are that the grant that proposal that I've been working on with the Scappoose Public Library was submitted yesterday. The deadline was today, and we hope to learn in late July whether or not that project was approved by the State Library and the LSTA grant advisory board that advises the State Library on which projects to fund. I also have set up a meeting, and it'll be Monday, April 16th at 10 a.m. in the auditorium. I will be hosting representatives from the Dollywood Foundation that has the program called the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. There will be a regional representative from that program, as well as a representative from the James and Shirley Rippey Family Foundation. They would like to talk to interested parties in Columbia County, and more specifically, Vernonia, Scappoose, and St. Helens, about bringing that program to our county. It is a program that provides one book per month to children ages 0 to 5. And the cost of that program is $25 a year per child. And there are longitudinal studies that have been done since the program has been instituted in other communities across the nation that show that kindergartners who had these books in their home are significantly more prepared to learn how to read when they get to school. There's more reading that goes on in the home as a consequence, and the children that receive these books more frequently ask to be read to, and their parents more frequently read to them. The James and Shirley Rippey Family Foundation has a proposal to fund half the cost of that for 3 years. And so I'm looking for partners in our community, whether it's Kiwanis or Rotary or the Friends of the Library or corporate sponsors that are interested in seeing us bring this to our communities. It is being done on a very small scale in Rainier and Clatskanie, and It's being targeted towards small rural communities in Oregon. So I invite you to come or to suggest to me any representatives of those organizations that should be present. And again, that's April 16th at 10 o'clock in the auditorium. I think it's an exciting opportunity for us to give young children a leg up on being ready to learn how to read when they get to school.
Yep, I agree.
How much would that cost for a partner then?
It would be half that $25 child cost. So our cost would be $12.50 per child, and they're willing to fund the other $12.50 for the first 3 years.
So it depends on how many children.
And the program is not targeted to a particular audience. It's all children 0 to 5. So they have statistics on how many children are represented in each community.
So sponsoring 20 kids would be $250. Matt's saying yes, I'm right.
If we had various groups contributing, a particular organization's cost may be some portion of that.
Yeah.
For instance, in Wilsonville, a local orthodontist has pledged $100 a month to the program, and his logo is significantly featured on their brochure, and I'm sure he's hoping that those kids will grow up and need braces and come to see him. But there are all kinds of partners for this kind of program.
But even a private could come and donate $50, which would be for kids.
Oh, sure. I mean, I just think it's a wonderful thing to get books in the hands of children, and I know Kiwanis has had that mission very significantly in our community. This is a way for this national organization to select age-appropriate books, and actually they mail the books to the home in the child's name. And I think there's a lot of excitement around receiving a book every month. And then if someone enrolls at birth, then by the time they're 5, they have a library of 60 books. So it's a pretty wonderful thing.
So the number of partners will dictate the number of kids that can be served.
Right. And the Rippey Family Foundation needs to work in conjunction with a 501c3. And I've already spoken with the Friends, and they seem willing to act as the organization that would collect the funds and pass them on, because I did have some conversations with some Kiwanians who said that they're a 501c4.
Yeah.
And I know some Kiwanis groups have a charitable arm that can serve that purpose, but I'm not sure the local groups do here.
We do, yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay, well, I mean, it's all up for discussion. They're coming with their statistics and their success stories, and there are no PowerPoint slides or anything. It's just let's sit down and talk about how we can do this in your community.
Do you know what that would be like on an annual cost?
Oh, let me look.
Well, I do have some charts and graphs, and I don't completely understand them. I just got them late afternoon because they show a progression over the course of 5 years, and I think that has more to do with how quickly you get kids enrolled. And I have a lot of questions I haven't yet gotten answered myself. I don't know if you immediately enroll children at age 0, or if you can bring kids in at age 3. So I have a lot of those questions that I'm pulling together myself. But they show a climbing cost over the course of 5 years, and I think that's because you are enrolling more kids as you go along. The Wilsonville Public Library Director is spearheading this effort as far as making contacts for the 2 foundations in these various communities. And he said that they have a lot of experience with this, and they said for some reason they never really see more than 60% enrollment in a community. And he said he was sure that Wilsonville would be different, but he said they're right at 58%. And so even though you have it out there, it's still hard to get people to sign on. So I really would like any suggestions that you have for people I should contact to come to this meeting, because I want everybody to hear this and have us consider it very strongly. the time frame for this offer is expiring fairly soon. By the end of June, their offer ceases to exist. So we would need to make a decision fairly quickly. And there may be other funds that we can apply for to help get us started. And on a different note, I wanted to also mention that the library does an annual recognition event. And we've not only recognize our volunteers, but we invite members of the Friends of the library board, people who work with us as partners, like, for instance, the ukulele instructors, people who present programs for us on a regular basis. And so we're going to be doing that Friday the 13th. And that will be a hosted dinner that we have. Also, recently, our youth librarian, well, actually, it was Monday. She had the first session in a two-part session with the metal arts teacher at the high school, who was setting up our computers in conjunction with vinyl cutters and programs for generating files to create 3D printed items. And so we shut down the public computers early, and the kids all came in that had enrolled in the session, and they had high school helpers that partnered with them and gave them assistance. And I was just exciting to see all of these young people working at our computers and creating these products from these programs. And of course, the Bonnie Adams was there, the instructor. And so we're having the second part of that session on Monday the 9th at 4 o'clock. So if you're around the library, you might pop in and see these kids at work. I particularly find these kinds of things exciting because I feel like our public computers are just an amazing resource. They are up to date and well maintained, and I just like to see them be utilized for opportunities like this. So that was a success. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Margaret. Matt?
Okay. I just have a few things. So tonight there's a public hearing for the supplemental budget. Hopefully it should be short and sweet. It's pretty standard, just basic stuff. It's rather large because we're just finalizing the fund structure changes that I implemented this current fiscal year. So if you have any questions of that, please let me know, and I'm happy to answer any questions along with that. The utility billing department started doing monthly billings. You should see those going out, so we can cross that off our list. And a big shout out to the utility billing department and Shauna, Jamie, and April for all their work they did to set that up. So the other thing is I will have a court report to you at the next meeting. I was hopefully waiting to see what the results of the RFP for the prosecutor and judge were going to be. Those RFPs are due back on Friday the 13th. So depending on what we get back, that will help kind of formulate the court report of moving forward and how that kind of moves. Then the other thing I just wanted to mention, this morning I was in Vancouver at the bankruptcy court for Bing's Restaurant. They're currently going through the foreclosure process and bankruptcy. And Hampton Heights and the city have kind of joined forces on one side, and then Bing's on the other side. And we did get a verdict today after a few testimonies from myself and then a couple on Bing's side. But the official verdict was that Bing's Restaurant and that property will now be moved into a trustee. That trustee will be in charge of liquidating that property. Technically, from our attorney's side, it is possible that the restaurant could stay open if the trustee wants to manage that on a day-to-day basis. That's up to the trustee. But we would hope to kind of see a conclusion and sale a lot faster than we have seen in the last 5 years that the city and Hampton Heights have been going through the bankruptcy process, so to speak. So Just wanted to give you an update on that.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, Matt, could you, on the court discussion, could you comment on the public defender status? That was kind of a concerning thing you may want to know about.
So we have court-appointed attorneys that kind of sign up on a regular basis, and we have a laundry list of those attorneys that have agreed to take on cases when they have time. We have a few cases that are out in May and June, potentially, that we do not have enough public court-appointed attorneys. The judge has kind of reached out to the Bar Association for Columbia County to kind of put out the word, hey, we need some more attorneys. In comparison with other courts like Scappoose next to us, we pay considerably less for court-appointed attorneys than Scappoose. Scappoose, I believe, pays around $160. We pay $40, I think.
Whoa.
They pay per case. Oh,
Case. And we pay per.
and we pay per hour. So
I wonder what that really actually.
So I guess the potential issue is if we have cases that get to that point that need to be appointed and we don't have attorneys, what do we do? So the potential idea is to increase what we pay. That obviously increases the cost of the court. So as of right now, I'm not too worried about it, and I'm not going to ask the council to make a consideration for increasing the fee or doing a change right now. We're not in a desperate need of we need one right now, but in the future we will. So I'd like to come back after the 13th to see what the RFPs come back with, and then at the next council meeting, I'll bring it up, and I'll have some more information about what other courts can do, or what they do, and how we could potentially change what we do, as far as court-appointed attorneys, or
Yeah,
if
what
it's
about
the
what
court
about the
department.
fee deal? I mean, I kind of like that, a fee, and then you can just add it to the restitution, can't you? If they don't.
Yeah, I mean they're basically paid by.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a better comparison between the 160 and the 40, since they're apples and oranges right now.
Yeah, and I can
If we
pull
know
those.
about how many hours are spent on a case, so
Correct.
we know how comparable it is.
Correct. Excuse me. Yes, I'll have more time to pull those reports and grab that data for you,
Okay, thank you.
to give you some more information. But just to, I guess, let you know ahead of time, potential issue, moving forward. But like I said, at the court report at the next council meeting, I'll have more information along with that and the RFP and kind of the whole process of the court department that we've been kind of looking at for the future of the court.
Have we had any responses on either of the RFPs?
As of today, I have received no RFPs for either the judge or the prosecutor. That's not unnecessarily, I mean, it's typical for RFPs to
Wait
kind of
till last
come in
minute.
at the last minute or the day before. So, yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. Tina.
Tina Curry. Is it on?
Yeah,
Can
I
you
think
hear
you're
me?
on.
Okay. Just to do a little recap from the person that sent us the card last time with the little kid's note from Texas, I wanted Doug to know that I immediately sent back a letter to the child as as a friend of Sally's here in Halloween Town. And I ordered some special buttons that have Sally's face on them and put them in there, and told her I took them off of my dress. And so we'll see if she sends us an email back with her wearing the costume now that her mom has the right buttons. And I think that I'm going to start a campaign of, if you're trying to get a hold of people in Halloween Town to send us your letters to Halloween Town and give them a P.O. box to send the letters to so that we can respond to them. We might get to be more popular than Santa. I doubt it.
Be careful what you ask.
I know, exactly.
FedEx truck will back up.
Yeah. There's been a lot of things going on since our last meeting, and I've been working on Festival of the Fairies. The tickets are now live online, and this is one of the fairy boxes that got done, and the idea behind this is that you have a little light that goes on the inside, and then there's an actual three-dimensional image that goes in here with various accessories like little fairies hanging from the roof and so forth. And then kids look through here and they peek inside the magic kingdom of the fairy. And there's 6 boxes and they all have different designs and different themes for the inside. So I'll be painting these. And we have the sign getting ready, also speaking of painting, for the Wanna Credit Union stage that is finished and completed. And we just need to paint it and get it put up, and I'm hoping to do that by next Wednesday. The reason I brought this little door, which typically sits against a wall, is that this is part of a scavenger hunt that was an idea brought to me by Mitzi from 2Cs of let's do fairy doors all around town and have people be able to go find them when they're in town at the Fairy Festival. And I thought that was a great idea. So we already have some people that have committed to putting doors in their businesses or on the outsides of their buildings, which could be really fun for friends and family to come and find those. One thing that I also added to the tickets for the Fairy Festival is it also gives them admission to free parking and tickets to the museum. So they will be able to explore the town. We'll be encouraging them to explore the downtown area between the ferry doors and the museum and where the festival location is. We also are starting to clean up on First Street. This is kind of a personal project, but everybody is on board because most of the merchants agree that they want to have nice storefronts and stuff like that. So I burnt all the weeds on one side of the street this past weekend, and then we'll be pressure washing it. And Judy has procured some pots, so she's going to bring some pots, and then I have a landscape friend that's going to donate some ornamental trees to go into larger pots, so that we'll have evergreens in the pots all year long, and they won't, be so seasonally directed just with blooming floral. The customer parking for Festival of the Fairies will be temporary parking at the end of First Street, which we're promoting. And I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I think it would be okay for the merchants to put a sign that's kind of like reserved for customer parking or something on weekends when we're doing this, because they do that in Portland and and they and one of the things, I don't know whether this is legal here or not, but in some parts in Portland, like restaurants can come outside of their buildings and almost block off, through traffic on the sidewalks with tables and chairs and things like that for people to eat outside. But I want to know if it's okay for me to tell them that they can put a sign that says customer parking in front of their businesses, because I don't want them to lose business because they can't find parking, for older people especially.
I don't have a problem with it as long as we're providing other parking, and we are.
Yeah. Well, and they can always park in the 2Cs lot. They can park at the dockside, beyond the dockside, and we'll put also a porta potty there in that location, so when people drive in from out of town, they can immediately go to the bathroom if they want to. And
So are they going to be like sandwich boards?
yeah, I mean, I don't care what kind of signage they use as long as it's professional signage, because maybe they have another message that they want to put on one side of the board. So I don't want them to have to go out and buy a new sign for $50 that
Right.
it
We do
has
have
to look like
restrictions on
this.
signage,
Yeah, that's what I was.
So
that's what
you-
I was I think sandwich boards.
Need to talk to
Well, they
Jacob
probably
about that.
know the restrictions because they have signage outside now that says we're open and things like that. So I don't want to, a preponderance
As long as
of
it's within our
rules.
sign regulations.
Yeah, so we'll assume that
Limit
they
how
know
many
that.
signs?
Well, I'm
Yeah,
just
per
thinking like,
business. One per
one.
business.
Yeah. Yeah, people kind of get the point. And because we're saying that there's free parking, we will have signage on the corner that says, festival parking is at the end of the street. So we will be encouraging people to not park in front of the businesses. The new signs on the street, Neil isn't here and Susan, but they are awesome. People are really happy to see the new signs that look beautiful. And they're excited that things are starting to go on. One of the things that we just didn't change, but just added for people to start participating in the waterfront development project, we gave the merchants all some postcards that they can have at their cash wraps or so forth. So if people want to have information and they don't know it, oh my gosh, there's the city website with an entire tab on the waterfront development with videos and any number of documents that you might want to look at. So I think it's better to just drive them right to the source than for someone to try to explain what's going on and then not have the right information.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to thank Susan for telling someone to call me instead of trying to answer a question that she didn't really know the answer to, because that just cuts down all of the misinformation that goes on. We also are wanting to thank our new sponsors, which is Running Dogs Brewery, Hudson, and the Port, and Cascadia, Dino Noble, and we have a lot of people that are really interested in participating with the city on a number of levels. One conversation that I had with Hudson Garbage, I noticed that Herb was here, was to maybe have a competition for the most environmentally friendly recycling home in St. in the county
That's
or in
actually
St.
what
Helens.
they are doing.
Yeah.
They are doing that as a program.
Yeah.
'Cause we had talked about that, and they mentioned they were going to do that.
So
Report.
one thing that I'm encouraging them to do, and they want to do, is that during 13 Nights on the River, they will have recycling stations so that people can understand what goes in what. Because if you can, and also if you can get the kids involved in recycling, they will drive the parents insane, forcing them to recycle if they don't want to. Once you get the kids behind you, look what happens. We all see it. So they are going to put stations for 13 Nights on the River. The other thing that we have coming up this week is on April 10th, we have some Airbnb experts that are going to be coming to answer questions for people that might think about earning some extra income by having someone staying in an extra bedroom or renting a trailer or whatever. These guys know how to do it and would be able to give them beginning steps on let's get you activated into the Airbnb site. And any money questions or anything like that, they'll be able to answer that. So that's on the 10th. And it's also under the events on Columbia County events. So if you know anybody that wants to earn extra money, that is the place to do it.
That'll be within the rules, right?
Oh, yes. Well, you have to. I mean, Airbnb dictates what's going on.
Well,
and
so
then,
does municipal code.
yeah, but I mean, it's not like, okay, let squatters come on your property. It's not really about tenting. Just
I got a shed out back already.
you might be able to redo that shed. You never know. So the other thing that I wanted to ask you about is the bike rack. Speaking of bike racks with Margaret here, but is the bike rack in front of Wild Current Catering, if we could possibly move that to another location. Because it's really weird when you come into town and you have the stop sign way back there, and then you turn the corner and it's like this bike rack is in the middle of nowhere. And so I would propose, and Doug is totally for it, to just move the bike rack into the free parking. That's where, when you see the sign that says free parking, bicyclers kind of expect to have a bike rack there, and there's no bike rack there. So I think that would be a better place for the bike rack. Is
After
in our
the event
lot.
is over, then where is the bike rack going to be?
Still in the
Do you-
public parking area.
Okay, in the back.
No, I'd say like in the front, right behind where we've just beautified the two benches.
Okay.
Somewhere right in
Just
there where you
wondering,
can see
because
it
they
the
need to be
second you
obvious.
drive by. Oh, there's my bike rack. Because it's kind of odd to have it on a corner where potentially cars are running into the bikes that are attached to
Well,
the.
that particular corner is difficult with the
It
car,
is. It is really
because
difficult.
you can't see around the corner.
Yeah. So maybe
I
moving
like
that
bikes
sign.
better there.
Maybe moving that sign forward, the stop sign, is the idea, because it is strange when you don't live here and you come to that stop. You don't really know where the stop is. Is it back there before the yellow line, or is it on the corner where it normally would be? And it throws people off. So then you're stopped back here, and okay, now I'm going forward, but oh, now this car is coming from over here, because they don't recognize that the stop is way back there. It's really I'm surprised there's not more accidents on that corner.
That's a Sioux issue. That's a Sioux issue.
Keith has been pushing this for years. That's why I looked at him and laughed, just so people know.
Okay,
That's why I
well-
looked at Keith and laughed.
four-way stop.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. I don't care what the four-way stop is. I'm just talking about moving that bike and painting it. I would love to paint it so it's not a chipped piece of yellow stuff.
If we could just vote on it, I think we'd have a four-way stop, but there's more to it than that.
But the four-way stop thing, I don't want to get involved in. I'm just asking if we can move the bike rack to the parking lot.
Yes, that sounds like a good idea.
Okay, cool. And I think that is 4th of July. So Cascadia Home Loans and Hit Machine are coming up with a fantastic promotion to encourage people to donate to the 4th of July, which is great. And we'll be making that probably live within the next week. So people can go online and check it out and become superstars and sing on stage with Hit Machine. And, I think people will respond to that. So the other thing that I'm working on is a new map for for us to hand out during any time people come to town. That's just a general overall map, and the merchants have been making corrections on it, which is great. And hopefully that will be done by the Festival of the Fairies, so that people will be able to have this cool thing to find other locations in town so they can kind of explore while they're here. Does anyone have any?
Well, that sounds like it'd be something that would also work. I know you were asked about reaching out to the yachters. That map would be something for the yachters.
The yachters. Well, speaking of yachters.
And maybe
okay.
market official map.
Yeah, it is.
So that okay.
Yeah, and the yachters. Yeah, so in talking to some of the merchants as part of like tourism outreach for the yachters, we were thinking that it would be really fun to give them coasters for their boats for the summer season. So if they come and eat at a restaurant, they get 2 coasters, and each time they eat at a restaurant, they get 2 more coasters. And the coasters have this on the front of them, and then on the back of them it says St. Helens, where spirits soar, hunters find treasure, and the Columbia slows its roll. And then just add water. And it's just kind of with the Discover Columbia County site, so they can always see what's coming up. And I'm wondering if it's okay to to just do some outbound advertising maybe in some of the publications that we have not been, because we haven't really had a dock to promote for a little while at least.
Yeah, we have a lot of the issues cleaned up, and
Yeah.
we've done a lot of work around that, so.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
The ferry doors.
The ferry doors.
Are you say you're just going to have them down here?
Well, people can have them anywhere. We're not going to detract from that. We're also putting up our Halloween squares, so people can have like a scavenger hunt, and then they receive a coin when they fill in the criteria.
Definitely try and include the whole town, actually.
Yeah.
Well,
tell me
of
more about
course.
ferry
Yeah.
doors,
I
please.
mean,
how do they work?
Well, you're not a fairy, Susan.
Are they going to be affixed to the building, or?
See, like some people can put them in their doorways, like inside, so you can see them.
You have to find them.
You have to find them.
Yes, but if you
And
find
they're
them,
not
you
all
can't
the
cart
same
them off,
size.
right?
They're not all the same size or design. So
Are they portable?
most of the time, no, they're not.
I just mean if they're not affixed, they may.
Walk away.
Yeah.
Fly away. Well, then they have to deal with the trolls. So.
Oh,
There's a
it's
threat.
cold,
Oh.
too.
Chained next to the ferry doors.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always something at St. Helens. So anyway, so there's different kinds of doors, and if you're looking for doors, I have a guy that sells them that can sell you a door. But people can have fun with it and make a little weekend project for an hour or something to make their own door. Maybe it's made of sticks and it's paint,
I really like the trolls.
So anyway,
You're in charge of that.
No.
So with we back up to the customer-only parking signs.
yeah.
Make that, I think the point of clarity is that just for the event. It's
Yeah,
it's
of
not gonna be
course.
the sea of signs that
Yeah.
Temporary sign.
Yeah.
That's
During
right, be there
festival
for all
parking.
eternity, 'cause
I think during event
Yeah.
parking, that's
So,
something that we could definitely.
What we heard also was that this would be a request for the 13 nights too.
Yes.
So just so we all know.
Okay.
Yeah.
City events.
Yep.
Which I
And it
think
was
will take
basically-
a lot of pressure off of people in the Muckle building too that live there, because that's always a big thing, is that people that live in the buildings don't really have any assigned parking, so you're completely on your own when you are down here. And if we can just kind of train people to park in that lot at the end of the street for all events, maybe we do something where we read your your license plate number, and if that's your number, you win something. If you're in that lot only,
Yeah,
we could
get
come
the
up
word
with
out,
some
yeah.
creative
Yeah,
ways to
13
encourage
nights,
people to
yeah,
park down
yeah.
there.
Except we need to start training them over here, though. That's going to disappear.
I'll let you deal with that.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully I'm sure there will be parking available in the future for new buildings. But does anyone have any other questions? Neil and those guys are going gangbusters out here, and we've gotten notice that all of the things that we wanted to be fabricated for props will be here on time. This is one reason why I don't like announcing what's coming until I know it really is coming, because then people complain that it's not there. So, but we got notification from everybody that it's going to be on time. And we have added goats in pajamas.
Nice.
Here you go.
And so
Who
Are
doesn't love
are they
goats in
local
pajamas?
goats?
Yes, they're local goats. Mm-hmm.
you want to talk to Jacob about the sidewalks, what's allowed on the sidewalks and whatnot, so.
I'm not
As far as
talking to
signs.
Jacob about
Well,
that.
as far as signage,
Yeah.
Well,
You were
I'm
talking about
assu-
tables and chairs.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
all
I
that
mean,
and everything.
obviously you have to like get some kind of a permit to put.
Well, if your sidewalk's wide enough, you are allowed tables.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sidewalk.
Okay.
You have to have enough room for
People to pass.
disabled
Yes,
people and
uh-huh.
wheelchairs to get by.
Yeah.
But it's again, it's in the municipal code,
Yeah. Okay.
so you need to direct people to that.
all right?
Yep.
Good work, Tina.
Okay.
Thank you. Kathy?
The only thing I have is to talk about your summer schedule.
Uh-huh.
July 4th is obviously a holiday, so I assume we'll not be meeting on July 4th.
Yep.
Do you still want to cancel the
August.
first August one?
Let's just take 3 months off.
You know, it's been tradition. We're only taking 2. And we're not taking the whole month off. We're taking the first week of each July and August.
Right, it would
As
be
previous.
August 1st.
Yes.
Is that okay with everybody?
Let me think. In August, I do have some kind of third week in August. I have a commitment.
It's the only thing I have on the calendar.
So we have that August, then the 15th is city council. I'll be fine.
Okay,
On
So
the
I'll-
15th, correct?
that's when we would meet.
That's when we normally meet on the,
Yes.
yeah, okay, great.
So we would cancel July 4th and August 1st.
Yes,
Okay. Is that okay with you, Keith?
thank you.
Keith wanted
Yes.
3. It's okay with him.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it? Okay. John?
Yeah, I have a few things here. One of the Tina's talk there from the merchants meeting learned that the impact to the transient boaters, the boaters that come and stay at the docks for extended time and kind of harass some of the people here and over at Sand Island, and how much economic impact that's had on their businesses. And they were saying numbers of up to 20% of their business is gone because of the boaters that just aren't coming back. They don't want to have this experience where there's we had some wrinkles with the power, getting that straightened out, but I think that's all good now. But people coming to the docks, being on the docks, and they leave their boat unattended, and they're going through the boats and stealing things, and I'm not feeling very safe, and how much impact that's had. So we've stepped up code enforcement. We've the Chief Moss is having people come in on Saturdays to monitor some of that activity, and we're trying to rebuild that public trust and bring some of that boater back. Because it's real. I mean, it's real money to local
And
economy.
have we notified the yacht clubs as to that change?
Yes. But
Yes, okay.
As part of that transient boater task force,
Okay.
Andy Meyer at the Columbia River Yachting Association, I'm supposed to come and talk about it at
Okay.
a future meeting. So I haven't done that, but
So are we gonna do like an overnight ticket thing?
we certainly can. Change our rules.
I think
to
that would
require the things we talked about as far as.
absolutely take care of that forever, and it might even make us a little money.
So the Marine Board allows us to charge up to $2 a night for a permit or to be on the docks. And part of that permit, we talked about requiring your boat to be licensed, registered, and an owner contact.
Yes.
Pretty simple. And
That way, I mean.
It ensures the safety of their vessel.
Yeah, and that way if the code enforcement goes down there and they don't have this little sticker on their boat, they get a ticket, plain and simple.
So how would they pick that up if they arrive on a Friday night after City Hall is closed?
There's tickets down there.
Okay.
Just like the marina boat
Okay.
launch, there's a little box down there with tickets in it, and you get an envelope and a ticket, and you tear half of it off and put it in an envelope and put it back in the box.
Even if we didn't make a money off program like that, if to have that in place for the numbers and the security purposes and everything else, it would pay
take care of
dividends,
those, yes.
right?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
More
That's what I was wondering, just
More
for future reference.
so that would take some kind of regulatory authority to do that. And I'm thinking about other marinas I've been to over the course of they'll give you register and they give you a sticker and you put the sticker on your window and it has a number on it. They can,
Yeah.
at least
Know who that registration is.
Yeah, they know who
Yeah.
it belongs to and who the
Yep.
boat belongs to and who to contact if
Right.
it's sinking or
You have
whatever.
a phone number, a name, and
Yeah.
everything, yeah.
So we can put that on the to-do list.
And even I know the marina has said they will help us on the weekends if we need, but, I mean, like say, if you just have the envelopes down there, it's a self-help thing. You just take care of it yourself.
There's a potential we can do that over in Sand Island as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
If a proposal that we're working on goes through.
Right.
That's what I was referencing.
Yeah, and that's the other opportunity for a better management. I think it's pretty public knowledge now that Armstrong's closing on May 31st, and we're bracing for the impacts of that. The impacts to the 90 people losing their jobs for one, but more city-centric. The impacts to the Urban Renewal Agency, the utility funds, and the just the general tax base. So we're sorry to see them go. We hope for the best, and they get a new business back in there soon. So.
Do we have a number as to the true impact of that?
For which, that would be direct or indirect. So.
Well, direct. I mean, and
the direct impact, I only know the utility rates. I have not looked at the property taxes to see specifically what.
It'd be kind of nice to know those numbers.
I can easily look it up, and I should be able to tell you tonight.
Well, that would be a much broader impact than that.
Yes.
The property tax probably won't hit too much till next year.
Well, yeah.
So.
All our businesses are going to be impacted.
But the direct effect of our utilities, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like 20%, 20% of the sewer fund. So it's definitely an impact. Wow. And causes some other procedural delays in our forecasting for the Urban Renewal Agency. So we're kind of in a wait and see mode right here before we recommend any investments with that. One of the things that happens with, like in the recession, property values dipped way down. Then we have this 3% per year cap on growth. Well, that doesn't have a memory. So when it comes back, if it comes back quickly, the investment comes back quickly. So when the property value goes down, it doesn't stay down. It adds the memory back to the old ceiling there. So there's, if you didn't know that, but League of Oregon Cities, I've been participating on both the community development and public works public policy committees recommending policies for the legislature. That is the public works is pretty straightforward. Infrastructure, community development is just a rabbit hole. There's so many pieces to that. From solid waste, transportation and building and fire, and their agenda is just massively long. But I think the leader with that is housing. I mean, housing across the board. All communities are struggling with housing. What to do about affordable housing and skyrocketing rates and strategies for addressing homelessness and things of that nature. So in the second of 3, possibly 4 meetings, that series.
So you're picking up lots of good information for us, right?
Yeah. We're waiting, yes. Yeah, this is my first time on that, so I'm kind of the newcomer to the committee, so I'm kind of getting the lay of the land and kind of waiting for our moment to jump in. But the building official recruitment is posted. It's posted until filled. We've had a couple applications. Glad there's some interest. It is a very difficult job to fill at the state level. I've been in communication with the head of the buildings program, and we've modified our job description to change some of the requirements. And what's that? Posting, yes.
Terminology.
Semantics to me. Okay. And having the building official out has been a real drain. I mean, it's very consuming on staff. It's a busy time. There's lots of activity.
Big project.
There's big projects.
Yep.
We're doing everything we can to move the bigger projects through. The middle school is, we've secured some relationships for plan review. That's moving nicely. We should have some permits as early as tomorrow, maybe early Thursday. And that's going well. So the Airbnb workshop that Tina mentioned there, that's, if I didn't talk about it in the update of the hotel, the transient room fee ordinance, that was something that was one of the modernization pieces of that, where we have our 2001 code. They didn't have things like VRBOs and
Right.
Airbnbs where you can rent a room in your house. But that in that ordinance has a process for registering and having an inspection and getting a certification, and getting part of that, getting up the connection to Airbnb so that they collect that fee and then they submit that with their booking. It's not the homeowner that's paying that. It comes straight to the city.
When is that presentation again?
She said April 10th.
Thanks.
We've been working on funding for the various topics, and yeah, the state posted a regional infrastructure grant. It's a $200,000 grant that's I think ready to go kind of grant. Yesterday we had community development block grant people to come in and talk about some options for the city, and also the Infrastructure Finance Authority through Business Oregon come in and talk, and we kind of went through all the city's projects, the boardwalk, the waterfront boardwalk. We're trying to get, staff is seeing that as the next catalytic opportunity to kind of get around and engage and design. What's the boardwalk piece going to look like? And that's a big project, very expensive, and probably going to be a lot of outside money, and we need to get it rolling. Trying to do that.
Yay.
Other than that, it's been
Job.
barely hanging in there.
Job, John. Councillor Locke.
Just had a meeting with Rory over at the mill, Cascades, and they should be getting the parts in for the clarifier next week. So hopefully in May sometime it should be up and running again. Hopefully. And they just got their guillotine in to start chewing up the broke rolls in back. So I think that's going to start moving anyway. He did say though that they're looking. The good news is they said they're starting to throw some money at them for improvements down there and whatnot. So, and they realized they actually need more room for like the brown paper that's out front in the parking lot, and so they're looking at renting or negotiating anyway a piece of property to put that brown stock on. They may be a little late. It may be like August or so before they get it out of the parking lot, but I says you better have a good plan with dates on it. So he assured me they would do that. So they're working on that.
Well, we could hire forklifts.
Get a place to put it. So anyway, they're working on them. So, and other than that, for Susan and Doug, we had a meeting with ACSP last week. Rick and John and myself were there and whatnot. They're moving ahead. I guess the best news is I've been kind of a proponent of the CBD industry and whatnot, and the leader of their group was always kind of dragging his feet, and now he's full guns blazing for going with the CBD products and whatnot. So that's good news, I think. And they're developing a brochure for like the community to give them a little information out about their company to the community and whatnot. So that's going ahead. That's it.
Thanks. Councillor Khan.
The Arts and Cultural Commission's been working on their budget, trying to get it ready for the Budget Committee for their presentation. They're working on a lot of different projects right now. They're very active They're working also on aligning their mission with the cities and trying to make their meetings shorter and more effective. They're changing the format of the meeting a little bit so that the reports are turned in ahead of time so that the public will have an opportunity to see them online the way they do the council reports. There was a unanimous recommendation to approve the Veterans Plaza as presented by Doug at their meeting. And he also brought a proposal to about picnic tables, painting picnic tables, moving away from it all being trash cans on 4th of July and towards picnic tables. And did they make any, I don't think they made a recommendation on it, but they jumped on it and were discussing it avidly.
Positive.
Yeah, they have ideas already. So that's what's happening with ACC.
Okay.
While the Parks Commission is going to be hopping this next Monday, we have such an agenda, it's amazing. And this just came to mind, and I'm looking here at Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission. Keith and I talked, and Keith, we've got 6 vacancies on Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission. What we'd like to do is just combine the bicycle and pedestrian with the parks, which seems to be, would be, I think, a fairly popular move. It would be more efficient, more effective for our staff. It would free up Shauna. Shouldn't have to come back and do the secretary liaison type of thing. And we restructured our Parks Commission to where we are taking on we have individual committees. So this could be one of the committees under the Parks Commission, and to report back to the entire commission on any findings that they might have or any kind of projects that they might have with Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission. So Keith and I talked about that, and with the council's blessing, I'd like to move forward with that. Just combine the two, because this is starting to get to be burdensome on many individuals, and especially our staff.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay. All right. Now we'll talk to Jenny about that, so she knows. I don't want to kill anything about Parks Commission, what they'll be looking at, but we're looking at proposals for policing Sand Island, cleaning it up, make certain that there's camping for everyone, especially individuals in our community who want to go over there and camp. I think I'm excited about the proposal. So that's around the corner, and a couple other things with arts. I like coupling, seeing the Parks Commission couple and partner with arts and culture. And I think the picnic table thing is going to be a pretty good kind of thing that the Parks Commission will embrace as well. So we'll see where all of that goes. But it's being talked about at this point, and when we get the final recommendations, I'll bring it to council, and we can go forward on it or whatever.
Look forward to seeing it. Yeah.
Be nice to have some titanium paint, so when people use their knives on it, it would dull their knives up.
Want steel plating on it?
Exactly. All right. Well, they could. I'm sure that people will paint an entire luxurious, wonderful cuisine ready to dive in, and I'm sure there'll be a look-alike pizza there and a few other kinds of things. We'll see what comes out of that. I think it's kind of exciting. I think it'd be fun. It'd be a good switch up from the trash cans.
Yeah, we've got enough trash cans for a while.
I think so. Anyway, that's it for pretty much for parks.
I got a question for people. So with the cleanup day, what day is that happening? It's in April.
I don't know.
And it's before the solve, I thought, because
I thought it was the same day as the solve.
I thought we were going. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I thought there was a discrepancy that Judy said we asked them, and they said we could go ahead and do it the weekend before it. I thought. I could be wrong. So I'd like to get some clarity on that, and if we need to, if it happens before our council meeting, put it on the city website. Make sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Get an email out to us.
Yep.
Heads up email.
Because I want to be able to announce it right now, and I can't remember the date, but it's on my mind. So, and then the ferry, not the festival of the ferries, the ferry. This is very confusing to a lot of people. I've had the people that understand the ferry that would be going to cross the river back and forth. A lot of people are reaching out, like the idea, and are ready to band together. And I see, we're going to be in resolution later, and it's just it's a neat concept, and we'll see where it goes from there.
I'm hearing a lot of positive feedback too.
Yeah, good.
My question about the ferry resolution is, we adopt a ferry resolution, and then where are you going after that?
Feasibility.
So
Partners, have to get partners first.
Yeah.
that's
Right.
that's what I was thinking.
Yes.
So somebody's planning on
Yep.
pursuing that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me know if I can do anything to help.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So that's all I have to. That's it. So we're gonna adjourn, and we're gonna take a break, and then we'll come back for executive session.
What do we got on executive session?
Some real property things. Actually,